Well, welcome to week 5 of the fall session of Ironman that we've entitled Influence and Connection. So this week we're going to take a little bit of a twist and start talking about one of the other words that's emphasized in John 15, this significant word of fruit, which we've equated with influence. It's used over 8 times in the short 17 verses that we've been looking at. So I just wonder what comes to your mind when you think of fruit, but most importantly, what do you think came to Jesus' mind when he talked about fruit, much fruit, more fruit, fruit that would remain? Well, that's what we're going to talk about, because every one of us, in some way, shape, or form, is having a life of influence. We're bearing fruit, if you will. The question is, what kind, and is it lasting? We're going to spend some time this week talking about this profoundly beautiful word called fruit. Hey, have you guys thought about pruning at all this week from what, last week? Anything? Talked a little bit. Some of you guys weren't here. You're probably glad. Not really. We had I felt, good time last week talking about this reality of pruning and what it not only does in the viticulture world, but what it does when it comes to a human's life. We talked about the why of it. What are some areas that sometimes we need a little snipping away, if you will, and what are even some of the ways that are used in life, suffering, God's Word, a good friend, that are used to literally grow us more and more into the people that we say that we want to be, if in fact we do. I just want to reiterate this again. We're not meeting just to meet. At least I'm not. I have no intention of showing up here every week and walking out of here and hopefully just coming back the same as we were last week. You know, even if it's like, man, it was a hard week last week. Like, man, I was like feeling like I was rumbling some of that stuff we talked about. Then I said, good. That's really good. You know, being unnerved, shaking the boat a little bit is really good sometimes. Sometimes stuff's got to get a little loosened before it gets tightened down again. And it's all right. And as you know, I really believe this, that the people that are here, I don't believe are accidentally here. You know, we've got a bunch of guys out in different weeks with work and other things going on, but, you know, we're here tonight, and let's make it count tonight, all right? So let's enter in. These brothers around the table, some of you guys are really getting to know each other, and one of the things that, the sound that I love at these Ironman sessions, whether it's Monday night or Thursday morning, is the sound of the brothers just talking around the tables. Because men don't do this a lot. And I've threatened to actually record it and send it back to wives if you're married or significant others, just to prove to them that you have the capacity to converse, you know, and that you actually have feelings, you know what I mean, beyond, oh, I'm fine. What's going on? Nothing. Like there's actually something in the pipe there that you have to give, but regardless of that. But Paul, why don't you start queuing that up? What I want to do tonight, we're going to continue to take another step. And I want to show you a clip just to kind of get us going a little bit. It's a short one, about 2.5 minutes. But I want to just ask you a question. When you consider this word influence, just influence, like what comes to mind for you? Just when it kind of ramps up. Does anything come to mind when you say influence? Like does anything jump out for you on that?
Parenthood.
Parenthood. Wow, you aren't kidding. Wow, that's a big one. Thank you. There's no right or wrong answer, by the way. Find this one.
Peer pressure.
Peer pressure. Influence. Parenthood, peer pressure. Grandparents. Yeah, I got some grandkids. I think about it all the time. I think about what do I want to leave them. In fact, our oldest grandson's turning 13 next month. And I just gave him something this summer, which were some thoughts that I hope down the road, it'll mean a whole lot more to him down the road than they do right now, but is a way that I want to just try to keep influencing his life. You know, just kind of some golden nuggets that I've learned and people have given me over my life. I kind of put those on paper so I could give those to him. And so we did that this last summer. It was really fun. So grandparenting. How about some others? Maybe a couple more. Yeah, Gary?
Temptation.
Temptation is a way that, say a little more about that.
Well, Satan and his dominion. I mean, that's the opposite side of the fence.
Yeah.
It's always waiting for any weakness and any break in the wall.
All right. Yeah, temptation can certainly influence us in a direction. Yeah. Heroes.
Sometimes, say a sports hero or just someone that you admire for the work they do in the church or something like that.
Good. How about a couple more?
Crooks.
Crooks have influence, don't they?
If your father is the vice president, you
We just went political right now. We could go on both sides of the aisle, I think, if we really want to get influence. This could get crazy quick. Yeah, certainly. We see it in every dimension of life, right? So let me ask you, one more, thank you.
Media.
Media. Wow, yeah, wow, boy, is that true. So think about this, all these different ways. Here's what I want us to think tonight. What did this person of Jesus mean when he talked about influence? And even more so, do you believe that your life actually has some? And or could? And to what degree? Because we're going to look at that. Because I think he meant something when he spoke about this. So I want to show you a little clip. This is really short of just it's a little thing more than anything else to just get you thinking about this. And then we're going to have a few opening comments. We're going to have some great time around the table. And then we're going to come back and try to figure out what did this one Jesus actually mean when he talked about it. What was it in his mind? So what was in his mind might be more in our mind. That make sense? Yeah. Okay, good. Enjoy this.
Bernie Madoff had amazing influence. He was also one of the biggest con artists of our time. He influenced wealthy investors to invest $17 billion in his Ponzi scheme. His incredible influence was used for ill gain. Mother Teresa was also a great influencer. She helped the unfortunate of the world and influenced thousands of others to help as well. Now, isn't it interesting that both Madoff and Mother Teresa used the same skill of influence to affect others? Influence is what causes others to follow us, take our advice, and help us achieve our goals. And leaders are experts at positive influence. They use their influence for good and not just for personal gain. There are three primary keys to influence. First, people trust you. Integrity, as I define it, is the distance between your lips and your life. It's about being congruent between who you present yourself to be and who you actually are. It is about substance, not spin. Leaders have the best interest of others at heart, and that is why they are trusted. Second, people respect you. People respect competence, and competence is being good at what you do. Nobody wants to follow a train wreck. Every effective leader I've ever met or studied was a man or woman who made the time to become truly effective in their work. Socrates said, "Let him that would move the world first move himself." If you can't demonstrate that you are in charge of your own life, if you can't lead yourself, why would anyone else want to follow you? Third, people like you. We are most influenced by those who have done the hard work of getting to know us. Relationship is key. You can be a person of character who is trustworthy and competent, but that doesn't mean someone will necessarily follow you. The most powerful source of influence is connection. We know the person, respect the person, and trust them, and therefore we're open to their suggestions, advice, and help. Samuel Brengel said, "The final estimate of men shows that history cares not one iota for the rank or title a man has borne, or the office he has held, but only the quality of his deeds and the character of his mind and heart." Why would anybody follow you? Because you're a person of integrity who is competent, and you've built a relationship with those that you want to influence.
So here's what we're trying to do. I want to define the word influence because it's a very simple word, and I'm just trying to get us thinking right now, right? I'm trying to get your minds moving in a direction because we're going to do a little word switch here in a minute, though they mean, I think, the same thing. I'm just trying to give you a little more contemporary language on this. I'm like trying to get this board not to move. So let me give you a definition of influence. I don't know if we even have it up there, but basically it's this. The word to influence simply means this: to affect another person, okay, or alter, if you will, a condition or situation. Influence is simply, very simply put, it's affecting another person in some way, shape, or form. Could be positive or negative, like Bernie Madoff or Mother Teresa, but it's affecting another person, or it's altering a condition or a situation. Now let me ask you, do you think that your life has the capacity to affect another person? Yes. This isn't age specific either. I mean, you can see little kids that have influence or have the capacity to alter a condition or a situation. So in this wonderful passage we're looking at in John chapter 15, If you're new with us tonight, we're actually spending 10 weeks in 17 verses. You know, as we said, this isn't simply a Bible study. We're talking about life, but we're going to use the Scriptures as our basis and springboard to understand reality. And so this is very, very important. So there's a couple big words that Jesus, the master teacher, used in this time. Do you guys remember the other one? Give me a couple. Do you remember any of them? There's one that starts with the letter A.
Abide.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. How many of you remember that? Please tell me yes. Good. Yeah. This word abide is a beautiful word because it means, again, remain. Some of your scriptures will even say remain, or stay put. A good way to say it is make your home in. Don't move from this place. Like, just stay there. This is used 11 times in 17 verses. It is probably the key thing in this passage. It's written in the present perfect tense, which means this: do it now, do it now, do it now, do it now. Just do it now. It's the state of your being. Jesus gives us a metaphor to help us understand this. And what is it? What's the picture he paints? A vine and what? Branch. So if a branch is wise, if it could be alive and talk, it's at its best when where is it in regards to the vine? Connected to the vine. This is another word for connection, is abide. That's a more present word, would be connect. The other big word that's used in this passage is the word fruit. It is used 8 times. Very important word. Most people, though, when they read John, they get stuck on fruit and they almost overlook abide. They just keep thinking about what I got to do, what I got to do. Got to produce fruit, got to produce fruit, got to produce fruit. Be productive, productive, productive. Now, do you think that Jesus cares about fruit? He does care about fruit. Of course he does. In fact, I would say this. He's pretty clear about it. He says that he wants us to have fruit, more fruit, much fruit, fruit that remains. It's not just here today and gone tomorrow. He wants it to last. But there's a way that it happens, and it happens when this occurs. You're not going to get much of this if you don't have this. In fact, if you're a branch and you're not doing this, you're not going to have any of that. Why?
Don't have the connection.
You're going to be dead if you're not connected. Or all the resource, using it again, there's a fly that wants to die up here, I'm telling you. If these are branches, everything that the branch needs, does it have in and of itself? No. Like, again, this isn't meant to be too simplistic, but I'm telling you, we miss this. I miss this. Everything, like I can't tell you the people that sort of begin this walk with God. And it's this beautiful thing. And then all of a sudden, you just see them walking around and they just start, they're just kind of getting lower and lower. It's like, what's wrong? He goes, man, I'm just feeling bad. Feeling bad. What are you feeling bad for? I'm not good at this. Not good at what? I'm not good at following God. I got to try harder. So what if we said it's not about you? It's actually about God. And there's only one person that I know who actually can fully live like God. Who is it? It's Him. So the thing He says is, why don't you just be a branch? I'll be the vine. I'm the true vine. And if you focus on this wonderful connection with me, I promise you that all that I am and all that I have and all of my resources and strength is to your avail. And if you learn to live in this place, I actually will bring, whose fruit is it? It's His fruit. Like the branch's fruit, the branch is simply, we'll see this more, simply a display table for the vine. The branch doesn't come up with its own stuff. It only produces what the vine is. So we live into that, and all of a sudden something beautiful comes out of us. So here's the challenge. What did Jesus actually have in mind when He spoke about this? When He said, I'm the true vine, and my Father's the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit. That bears no fruit. While every branch that does bear fruit, what does He do? He prunes. So we'll be even more what? More fruitful. He says, now look, remain in me, Mel, and I'll remain in you. Because no branch can bear fruit unless it remains in the vine. Neither will you unless you remain in me. And he says, I'm the vine. You're the branches. He remains in me, and I in him will bear what? Much fruit. So what did he mean when he said we'll bear much fruit? And so what we do, we come up with all our ideas. We instantly go to this passage in Galatians 5, which talks about the fruit of the Spirit. I just want you to know, when Jesus said this, Paul wasn't even converted yet. The Galatians hadn't been written yet. Certainly, I wouldn't think it's less than that, but could it be that Jesus was thinking of some other things other than just love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, self-control? I don't think he was against those. I certainly would say that, but instantly that's where we go. And then we quit talking about it. I believe that there's more that Jesus had in mind personally. And we're going to talk about this tonight a little bit. Okay, and here's why I think this. If you have your Bibles, let's turn to John chapter 14, just for a minute. John 14, and then we'll go back to chapter 15, all right? You guys with me? Any questions or thoughts so far? We're hanging there, right? All right. Listen to this. This is John 14. Again, the second half of the Gospel of John was written in the last week, Gary, of Jesus' life. Okay, right before he's going to the cross. John 14 is this beautiful illustration of him, Jesus saying, look, don't worry, don't be troubled. I'm going to go prepare a place for you, and I'm going to come back and get you, John, so you can be with me. It's these encouraging words. And he says he's going to give us a Spirit, which is kind of, if you will, the juice of the vine flowing through us, so we don't have to pull this off on our own. And then look it down in verse 12. This is crazy. He says, I tell you the truth that anyone who has faith in me will do what I have been doing. In fact, he will do even greater things than these because I'm going to my Father. Let me read that one more time. Jesus, I tell you the truth, anyone who has faith in me will do what I have been doing. Do you think that refers to fruit at all? Yeah. You're going to be doing what I'm doing. In fact, you're going to do even greater things than I did. How could he say that? Like, how many of us in this room go, hey, George, you think you're going to do greater things than Jesus did? Like, what? That's what he said. Here's what he's talking about. The you there is plural. It's not like just one dude. And here's why I think this is true. Jesus was not omnipresent when he was here. He was only one place at a time. He couldn't be in Galilee and Samaria and Judea all at one time. He was limited. He couldn't be in every town at one time. But here's the beauty of the vine. You see, when the branch is in the vine, then the nourishment of the vine or his Spirit can go any place, right? So look at all the guys in this room. Like right now, if we just went out and dispersed all over Towson or Baltimore and Cockeysville right now, guess what? Literally, Jesus Christ is in all those places in us. He's not limited to one place. Like right now, he's in millions of places in the world doing a good work if people abide in him. He's actually getting stuff done through his people. This is huge. This is why he's saying we do greater things. Now the word fruit, this is not a hard definition. I just want to give you a couple. It's simply that it's just that which is produced by the inherent energy of a living organism. Fruit just comes out of the natural energy, the inherent energy of a living organism. Something that's alive. It comes out of that which is alive. In a vine that's really alive, there's inherent energy that produces goodness that comes from it. Something that's healthy reproduces itself. And so fruit, the scriptures here, Jesus is saying, if you remain in me and I in you, you what? What did he say? John 15, you will what? Don't be ashamed. Go ahead. Say it loud. You will bear. So fruit is a what of what? Fruit is a blank of what? Thank you. It's a byproduct. Fruit, if you could, this inherent energy of a living organism, fruit is a natural outcome of abiding. It is a byproduct of a position or a place. And what it needs, fruit needs branches to display itself on, if you will, or to declare its life through. So through your life is a display table, Mark. Isn't it amazing? for the very person of Jesus Christ. Like, we often don't think of this, do we? Like, what if my life, and I got up every day and said, you know what, this isn't really my life. This is why Paul said, it isn't me who lives, it's Christ who lives in me. My life isn't just about me with a little Jesus added on. Like, you know, Bert's walking around Baltimore every day that in some ways, literally, whether we know it or not, consciously or unconsciously, your life, my life, Frank's life, we're literally a walking display table for this person that we want other people to know. So then it becomes powerful because it isn't a competition between the branches. The beautiful thing is, think about this, that Jesus Christ has said, look, here's the strategy. What I was doing is going to keep being done, and even more than what I did. And here's the strategy. I'm going to use you guys with my Spirit in you, men and women, to actually display the reality of my nature in my life. Because what I did while I was here, I'm going to do more of it now while I'm gone, in and through my people. This is huge. And so here's what I know. Thank you, Matt. That Jesus didn't have in mind, I heard this statement once, a faith that was privately inspiring, yet publicly irrelevant. He had no desire for some kind of faith that's just privately inspiring. I got my God life, you know, but then when I go out, it's totally irrelevant to every other dimension of my life. In fact, I would say this. I think Jesus cares about business, IT, carpentry, school teachers, business owners, builders, you name it. Because we're all in the people business, right? Did any of you talk to anybody today? You know, get this. There was a 2-year-old kid shot yesterday, over the weekend in Baltimore City, because one person at a light beeped their horn and told they had to kind of get with it. Person got a gun and shot into the other car and hit a 2-year-old kid. Like, we got some relational stuff, don't we? So here's the tension. A lot of times we just want to hole up. Just give me and my faith thing, and I just want to be right here. He says, no. If this thing works, we want fruit. Do you think that's all that Jesus wants? Is a bunch of people that believe in Him? Well, a bunch of stuff is going to hell in a handbag, and we retreat because we think we got nothing to do that can stop the cave-in. Really? Did He come for that? I don't think so. So during your time around your tables, give thought to some of these questions. When you think of Jesus' life and the fruit that His life bore, what was that like? What did it look like? What do you think was the influence, if you will, or a couple key manifestations of fruit in the life of this one named Jesus? Second of all, do you ever consider your life having the capability to bear His kind of fruit in this world, in your spheres of relationships? Do you really see yourself as an influencer? If not, why not? And if so, how? Spend some time around your tables talking about this. Have a great time. Hey, look, let's pull together and talk about this a little bit. This will be fun. As always, we're not going to solve this tonight. So for those of you that like to go to places and have a nice, neat bow all tied and figured out, you have come to the wrong place. All right. But we are going to help a little bit, I think. And that's part of the challenge, is that you're always learning. School's always in session, right? Hey, so let's talk about this a little bit. What were some of the things that maybe just started popping around the tables a little bit as you guys started talking about this whole concept of impact and fruit? Just maybe what was going on as you looked at the life of Jesus. I mean, anybody. Let's just somebody kind of get us going. I'd love to hear a little bit just from a couple of you. Yeah, thanks, Scott.
I do not take credit for this. I heard this in a sermon over the weekend. Jesus took 12, technically 11, no-name men and turned them into people to conquer the world.
Okay, we're good. Scott, thank you. We're going to put that one on hold, but we're going to get back to that. Scott said that he'd heard this weekend that Jesus took 12 and literally developed them. And I would always say 12 plus women. There were some women. You know, the first person who saw Jesus when he was resurrected was who? Mary. It wasn't Peter. It wasn't James. It wasn't John. Mary. So I just think a lot of times, you know, we leave them out. You know what I mean? No. I'm not saying you did. I'm just saying I'm adding on to, there was 12. We always say 12. It's more than 12 because there were some women a part of this thing. That's all I'm saying. Part of the early group, okay? In fact, it was one of the women that had to go back to the upper room and say, hey guys, he's alive. You're right? Pretty powerful stuff. Here's another thing. We're talking about next week, a little primer. Why do you think we're not answering this tonight, but why do you think we even know the names of the disciples? Like, why does it matter? One point he goes, and Jesus called them Peter, James, John, Thomas, you know, gives all these names. It's like, okay. I think there's a reason, and it's a really good one. But we'll talk about that next week. So you guys can lay in bed at night all week thinking about this. Go like, dang, I can't go to sleep because I wonder why. Good. Keep going. Some more thoughts. Yeah, thanks, brother. Yeah.
We compartmentalize as men a lot of times. Like, this is my work.
Yeah.
I'll pray at 6:30, and now I'm driving down the road going, and that's my, okay, but I did that. All right, now this is, it's not that we're purposely unincluding him.
Yeah.
We're just sectioning off times. And the whole day can go by where you are like, oh, did I think of Jesus? I haven't thought of him in 6 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, you know.
Yeah.
So we're not plugged in like we really need to be.
Yeah. You know, I was reading the other day, this is so great because it is easy in our world to want to compartmentalize. So, you know, okay, now I'm going to have my influence time. Now it's not my influence time, you know. And the Hebrews would say these little things called baraks all day, like these little blessings of thanking God, like all the time. So you say they prayed all the time. They didn't say a lot of long prayers, but they said a ton of short ones. It could be like you get a cup of coffee, you're walking back, you say, Lord, man, thank you for blessing me with this coffee. Thank you. Thank you, Lord. Lord, thank you for letting me drive. I have a car to drive. I mean, this sounds crazy, but even when people went to the bathroom, it would be like, Lord, thank you, literally, for every hole in our body that works. Like, you think your nostrils get plugged up. It's a bummer. Let alone other holes that get plugged up is a bummer. All I'm saying is we think this stuff is like everything. They saw God in everything. Thank you, God, for the sounds, you know, the air, the thing. These are really important connections, I think. The perspectives we bring, but I want to think about this again when we think of Jesus. What else kind of came up? This is good. Yeah, Charles? Real loud.
His humility.
His humility.
His ability to be approached, and his ability to talk to people.
Yeah.
Even the marginalized people.
Even the marginalized people. This is really good. Like, I'm putting it up here. We're going to come back to that. This is very, very important. Yeah, Alex and then Chad.
There's in the Hebrew people that are very ultra-Orthodox, there is a prayer for everything that you could possibly think of.
Yes.
Washing your hands, going to sleep, putting your clothes on, drinking soda.
Yeah.
Different from drinking coffee, drinking water, drinking wine.
Yeah.
There's at least 100 prayers that they know for everything that they do in the period of a day.
So think about that. A lot of you think, well, those guys are going overboard. Well, that wasn't the spirit of it. You know, the spirit of it was to stay connected with an awareness, and really, of abiding. Like, you know, was Jesus was he a Christian or a Hebrew? Yeah, you guys are following. We say we're Christian, but we follow a Jewish rabbi. So I think this is, you know, like this is why I love the question. When someone says, are you a Christian? I love making people define that for me. Because eventually, I think a lot of times what people, particularly aren't followers of Jesus, will say they have an idea of that. And I say, well, what do you mean? Because I've talked to people that think, well, I'm a Christian. You mean, so you're a follower of Jesus? No, I'm not. But I am a Christian. Like, well, I think so. Well, let's think of this. Not over being critical. It's like we got to really think about this because What Jesus had in mind, again, the word disciple means to be a student, a follower, someone who mimics another, who literally wants their life to be like the one that they follow. And so this is why we're talking about this. Jesus actually wants fruit, much fruit, more fruit, fruit that will what? Remain. So if that's what He wants, what did He mean? Because we can run around all day and go, I don't know. I know He wants it, but I don't know. I don't know what He wants. I think I'm supposed to be doing something, but I don't know. And it comes to abiding. Maybe a little color chart here for you guys. The red is the energy of the Spirit that goes into the branches that we actually get to declare to something to the world. But what is it that we're to declare if in fact we're to do what He did and greater things than He did? Collectively. Like, we need to know this. Like, otherwise we're walking around tomorrow going, I'm following Jesus. It's great in my life. I don't know what the heck it's supposed to mean in public, but works for me.
He wants us to mimic Him as a person and as someone who carried a certain weight. He carried a sermon out to the people, the way He talked to them. He didn't talk down to them.
Great. Keep going, Jeff.
Also,
Didn't talk down to them. Talk with them. Right?
right. It was very positive.
Positive.
As opposed to being
Servant. What was the criticism of Jesus? Do you guys think of any criticisms He had? Hung out with the wrong people, right? He was actually a friend of and drunkards and gluttons because of you're only called a friend of somebody if you actually what? Spend enough time with them that people actually see you with them enough to think this. He didn't say he's a casual associate. Like, it's interesting in Young Life, over the years, we've worked with a ton of kids, and Rick Reel and Joel and others in the room have been real involved in chat, and it's really interesting over the years. I've had parents actually say over the years, like we in Young Life, we kind of take a lot of joy in trying to reach the furthest out kids, so to speak. Steve's been real involved in that too, and parents, it's really interesting. Sometimes parents will drop their kid off, and when they see kids out there like smoking or being crazy, they might hear the F-bomb getting dropped or something. It's kind of like they almost want Susie or Billy to get back in the car. It's like, man, we want somebody working with these kids. I just don't want mine around them. It's like, what do you mean? Like, they're doing a lot worse than what you're seeing. Like, if you think that's all they're doing is dropping F-bombs, smoking cigarettes, like, let me tell you, it is way worse than that. I had my neighbors getting mad because of the kids that we had at our house for Young Life Club. They were glad somebody was working with them. They just didn't want somebody near them working with them. Literally. And I said, look, it doesn't work that way. If they do something you don't like, they're in your yard, call the police. Do whatever you got to do, but I'm just telling you, we're not going away. Like, they're not even in your house. All of those, they're in my house. They're actually in my house. And it's still standing. My only point is that we all want the world changed, right? The question is, do you want to be in the game? And it's messy, and it gets crazy, and you can be misunderstood. And if you want safe, you've hooked your wagon to the wrong guy, meaning Jesus. I'm just telling you, you just have. Because one of the first things He did was upset the religious apple cart. Not because it was bad, but because it was putting the things on people that they never should. Jesus was a rule breaker. If you don't believe me, look at John chapter 4, where He broke a gender barrier, speaking to a woman in public. He broke a religious barrier, a Jew, speaking to a Samaritan. He broke a religious barrier as a rabbi, actually engaging somebody like that in public. He's breaking all the rules. You know why? Because they never should have been there in the first place. They never should have been there. And so one of the things with religious leaders, they got all jacked up about the Sabbath. So Jesus actually does something on the Sabbath, which was, what did He do? He did a couple things, but one of the things He did, like what did He do? He healed, right? And they're like, you can't do that. Why don't you wait till tomorrow? Because the guy's hurting and he's right here now. Huh? And of course He heals him, right? And the point is, was Sabbath meant for man or man for the Sabbath? Like, you guys have lost it. They get all jacked up about the temple. He talks to them about that. They get all jacked up about cleanliness laws, eating without your hands clean. He says, if you guys really cared about cleanliness, let's go to where cleanliness really is. Yeah, Chad?
I think when I think about influence and how Jesus was influential, I think about, our relationship, and a lot of relationships have been influential in my life. And I think he spoke truth to people, and when people were believing a lie about something, he corrected that. He also healed a lot of people he was in contact with and restored things to how they ought to be.
Yes.
And I think a lot of his influence was really the changing of the way people think and view the world around them.
Okay, so during your day, imagine this. Okay, now if that's what Jesus did, he's the vine, right? He's in you. Do you still think he wants to do that today? Or was that just good for people 2,000 years ago? Do we have people today that need to hear a word of truth? Do we think we need people coming upside and saying, hey brother, look, I think that's a lie that's kind of holding you back. Let's talk about that. Let me put you on, what's going on here, man? But this takes courage. Where does that courage come from? If you abide, it comes from some other place. I'm telling you, charisma and good looks doesn't get this done. And here's why. Because our battle isn't against flesh and blood. If it was just against other people, we could outsmart each other, we could outlook each other, we could out-charisma each other. This thing is so big. Here's one thing I would tell you, I think that the fruit that Jesus bore was this. He brought a brand new kingdom. Brand new kingdom. With a whole different way to live. Listen to these verses in Luke chapter 4. This is so powerful. He takes the scroll of Isaiah, he goes into the temple on the Sabbath day. He took the scroll the prophet Isaiah was handed to him. Unrolling it, he found the place where it is written. This is like Isaiah 61, verses 1 and 2. And so these are basically, I learned in the prophet Isaiah, these were sort of the messianic parts of this book. And you can almost see Jesus just unscrolling this thing, right? Unscrolling. And he's getting there, scrolling. They get to this place, Isaiah 61. This is crazy. And Jesus reads this. They knew that these were the words of the one who was going to come, the Messiah one day. And Jesus reads, "The Spirit of the Lord is on me because He appointed me to preach good news to the poor. He sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners, recovery of sight for the blind." Now, most people, they weren't for the blind, the prisoner. Jesus is actually talking about freedom, sight, release the oppressed, and to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor, which was the year of Jubilee. Then it says, he rolled up the scroll, gave it back to the attendant, and he sat down. The eyes of everyone in the synagogue were upon him. They were fastened on him, and he began saying to them, "Today the scripture is fulfilled in your hearing." In essence, he's basically saying to them, this thing Isaiah spoke about, this Messiah, I'm bringing the new era right now. The first thing, interestingly, that Luke records after Jesus does this, the first thing Jesus does is he drives out a demon. He confronts evil. Do you guys think in the course of our day we ever have a chance to confront evil? Evil can have, you can think, well, I don't know, is it really evil or kind of evil? It's evil. It's things, you put it different, things that destroy, hurt, and beat people's value and dignity up in the course of a day. Do you ever see some of that stuff? Oh, yeah. Yeah, we all do. How about the nature of your conversations? Are they judgmental or civil? We can be civil and still be strong. We can be respectful. Truth isn't afraid. Truth doesn't go away just because somebody doesn't want to acknowledge it. Do you know that? Gravity exists even though people don't want to exist by it, right? I mean, it really does. See, it's not threatened. I mean, he confronts evil. This is powerful. What are other things that he does? Is he brings a kingdom. He said, "Behold, the kingdom of God has come," which means it's the way it actually ought to be, as Chad was saying. So you think about how should it be? Everything Jesus does reveals the goodness of God. So a blind man actually gets to what? See. A leper actually gets to what? Be included and be healed. A disregarded prostitute is actually what? Embraced and cared for. It's how it ought to be. He touched these places. He went to these places. Let me read you a quote. This is so great by Can we get that up there, Paul? Or Frank, thank you. I want to read this quote. This comes from The Rise of Christianity by Rodney Stark. It's just an amazing read. But let me read this. It said, Christianity revitalized life in the Greco-Roman cities, get this, by providing new norms and new kinds of social relationships able to cope with the many urgent urban problems. Do we have any today? Listen to this. To cities filled with the homeless and the impoverished, Christianity offered charity as well as hope. When you see Christianity, just think followers of Jesus, all right? To cities filled with newcomers and strangers, followers of Jesus offered an immediate basis for attachments. To cities filled with orphans and widows, followers of Jesus provided a new and expanding sense of family. To cities torn by violent ethnic strife, do we have that? Believers of Jesus offered a new basis for social solidarity. And to cities faced with epidemics, fires, and earthquakes, they offered effective nursing services. Meaning they didn't run when everybody else was running. There was a new kingdom. And basically, you could say this. What Jesus said is this old, we've mentioned this here before, it was this beautiful Hebrew word of shalom. And people often think it means peace, and it does, but to the nth degree, it really means this. Nothing's missing and nothing's broken. Jesus modeled that when he put busted things back together. He valued devalued people. He saw what nobody else saw. He confronted false religious systems that held people back from God. Like you guys think about this in my life and your life. Do you see any devalued people? I'll tell you what happened to me yesterday. So we're at the Ravens game. I told you I was in this suite. There was more food left over there than people ate. The guy there goes, hey, look, take it because we got to throw it all out. I went, what? Throw it all out. I go, dude, so we get boxes. You know, I just like one or two, and I'm carrying some boxes out with wings and some chicken and crackers, and you feel like you pillaged the place or something, so you're leaving. And then we walk out. There's two homeless guys sitting right there. I walk right by them. I said hi and walk right by them. We go another 150 yards. My wife looks at me. She goes, "Why didn't you give that food to those guys?" I'm thinking, Lord, I think I hear you. So I look up and there's two other guys sitting there. And I walk over and I go, "Hi." He goes, "Oh, thank you." And Lonnie was with me. Lonnie goes, "Hey, what's your name?" He goes, "Larry." Larry. So we put our hand on Larry. Larry wasn't some homeless dude. Larry was a human being. And you know what? He was hungry. Oh, he was hungry because he's just as lazy and he's out on the street and he's just doing nothing. I don't know. I don't know his story. Right. But here's what I know. Right then, that guy was hungry. And he looked like somebody beat him up. And he just looked, he goes, "Thank you very much." But here's what was beautiful. He had a name. His name was Larry. And so I walk a little further. I go, "Man, Lord, that was pretty painless." And I felt like the Lord says, you can do this all day. It doesn't have to be home. It could be anybody. Like, you have a chance to speak truth into somebody, right? You can watch somebody kind of literally get the snot kicked out of them in a conversation. Come on, man, we need to go have a conversation. You can say a hard thing. Like the other day, I was with a conversation with a guy, and he's telling me about this relationship he's in. And I said, well, I made a suggestion. He got really mad at me. He goes, "Well, why would you say that?" I go, "Just a suggestion." He goes, "I know, but like, of all the things you could say, like, why would you say that?" And I go, "I don't think you understand me." He goes, "I understand you. Like, why would you say that?" I go, "Okay, if you understand me," I'm talking just like this. We're in Starbucks. I go, "Why don't you tell me what you think I'm saying to you?" So he tells me what he thinks I said. And I go, "You understand 10% of what I just said to you. 10 out of 100. And if I'm the woman you're with, right now, I feel unbelievably misunderstood, and I'm a dude. So you're screwed. Like, I'm a guy telling you, and you got 10%. And all of a sudden, I go like, "Hey, relax. Relax. I go, what we really need to talk about is, why did what I said to you upset you so much? That's a way bigger problem. And I go, look, let's just say this. Dude, if I didn't care about you and think there was something in you because you're compassionate, you're kind, you got a lot to offer, and then he starts getting teary. I go, I wouldn't be here. I actually care about you, but I care enough to tell you the truth. Because you have some blind sides, and it's killing you. See, kingdom comes in. How about when you're in meetings? Something dishonest is going on. I can't just remain, I got to say something. I don't know. You know, you got to figure out a way. Why? Because it's the right thing to do. We bring conscience to these things. This is risky business, isn't it? Could be misunderstood, right? You know, and I have failed at this. I have not always said the right thing. I have not always stepped up and like, God in His mercy forgives me, but I want to bear good fruit. I want somehow the places that I go, just think about cumulatively, all the places we go in a week, if those places could be a little different, how different they could be because of us. You know, like, so here's Joel and Dirk, Steve Shaw. These are 3 guys that teach. These guys are in high schools every day. Jesus Christ walks into there in them. This is an illustration like the kingdom of God. They bring a different presence. What they do, Steve's a doctor where Steve goes. You know, we do these things, but think about this. Like, I don't know what it looks like every day, but we see evil. You guys see it. The way kids talk to each other, right? The way they evaluate each other, the way they get their sense of worth and tensions. And so it's not always fun being in that environment. It's hard. But if you live for something more than just teaching, and it's through your teaching you think kingdom, now it's a different ballgame. And guess what? You don't have to be enough, because who is? He is. I can't muster enough knowledge to pull this off every day. Neither can you. And we don't have to, right? But we can bring the hope and the love, and we can see things in people they don't see. We can take conversations to a higher level. Maybe we're the positive one in the group, or the quiet one, or one that's silent when maybe silence is needed. I mean, I'm the guy that sometimes, you know, guys will tell a dirty joke and then they'll look at me and go, sorry. I go, like, why are you saying you're sorry? You're saying you're sorry. Maybe you should have said it in the first place. I don't know. Like, I've heard a lot worse than your joke. Like, I'm not offended by it. Are you offended by telling it? Maybe you shouldn't have told it. I don't know. I'm just saying Jesus brought a kingdom. And it's how it ought to be, the fragrance. And He's putting that kingdom in new wineskins, right? Not old stuff. So here's one more, and Scott got at it. I think the other fruit that Jesus did, so one of the displays that He wants to continue is what? To keep advancing His kingdom. We're going to talk more about this next week. I'm just getting it on the playing field. And here's the second thing He did. When you think of Jesus' life and when He left, did things end? What went on? What happened? The disciples did what, Charles? The disciples dispersed. But what did they have to do? They did. So you see Jesus giving His life away, and then the vision was that these had to do what? They had to multiply. They had to do the same thing He did, or at some point it's going to stop. If you don't keep giving it away, at some point it actually stops. You and I are sitting here because of some of those people, that quote I just read, of the early believers in the Greco-Roman world. They gave it away. Who gave it away? Who gave it away? Who gave it away? Like, we don't know all these people, but it's happening. Do you know one of the fastest growing places where the church is growing in the world today? Iran. And it ain't over public TV, I can tell you that.
If it's not negative, I mean, He doesn't put it
No, but I'm saying in Iran, it ain't even negative. Like, trust me, like the followers of Jesus aren't getting a lot of PR. But I'm just saying to you, it's person to person. Have this vision of people. This is why I kept asking you. He built a band of followers, men and women, to carry the legacy. So here's what I'm thinking. Imagine, we're going to talk more about this next week. But when somebody put into my mind, hey, Goody, who are your men? 45 years ago, it's haunted me ever since. Like, just imagine every one of you having one person. One. that you get with and say, hey, let's just talk about growing, learning. You give what you know away with the expectation you'll do that for 6 months or a year, and then you each go find somebody else. Do you know how grateful I am for Chuck Reinhold and John Hartsock? Forever. How grateful I am for other brothers. Like, here's what I know. When this gets in you, it changes you. And we settle. We don't have to settle. The joy of my life over that question. But here's what I know. A lot of you guys, a lot of people sit in rooms like this and think, I could never do that. Never could do that. What did Jesus say? Did he say there's only an A team? Like, here's what I'm telling you. If you know Jesus, you're the A team. This is it. This is it. Like, we're it. We're the strategy. It's not programs. You know, it's not big rallies. Like, I'm telling you, it's people with people. And that maybe you begin, and we'll talk about this next week, everyone in this room has a sphere of influence. I don't know what yours is or who, but I tell you, if you will begin to ask the Lord, Lord, give me eyes to see. And it could be you even intentionalize your relationship with one of your kids, your own blood. I know Mike has made a decision, 2 years ago, Mike, to mentor a young boy in the city, right? Like, took that on, been fun, challenging. Mike, how's that impacted your life? Huh?
Well,
say a word, give us 30 seconds.
Inspiring, difficult, eye-opening, perception busting, and encouraging.
Yeah, sounds pretty boring. Yeah. You know, those are amazing words. That's powerful stuff. So, you know, you read the book of Acts. You want to think of some fun. You read that book, you kind of read it and go like, man, I want in on that. It's just some fun stuff, right? I'm just trying to say, when Jesus thought fruit, he didn't just think about just being nicer people. He actually said, look, this world is not going how I created. I'm bringing my kingdom. And now I'm going to plant it here. We're going to keep taking ground in this. I hope you want to be a part of it. Because listen, you don't have to think, it's not about you, it's about me. The key to this is in the connection. I'll give you what you need to produce the fruit. It's not about trying harder. You just remain. Because natural fruit comes out of a healthy relationship. Jesus said it this way. A good tree, produces what? Good fruit. Why? The good man out of the good stored up in his heart brings forth what is good, and the evil man evil. When it's in here, you fellas, you can't keep it quiet for very long. I promise you, you'll start seeing things you didn't see. You'll start having sensitivities that you didn't have. You'll start caring about some things and having a little more compassion. You're not going to hit a home run every day, but I'm telling you, over time, you and I get to be this incredible display table for the vine, and it is amazing. And I think one of the things Jesus said is, one of the fruit is that we're going to create this mechanism of passing this thing along, passing this thing along, passing this thing along. I may have told this story, we'll end with this. A number of years ago, back in the golly days, whenever the Olympics was in Atlanta, that was a long time ago. 96? No, I don't think it was quite that. 96, I think. Yeah. So I got, through a friend, entered me, I don't know how they did this, but they entered me without me knowing into the Olympic torch relay. I somehow got picked to be a part of that crazy thing. One of 3,000 people across the country. And I had to run was up in Havre de Grace. So I had to go up there, and I literally got sent this outfit that was white shirt, white pants with these crazy little stripes. And it looked like an ice cream man outfit. And I didn't even want to wear it, but I realized, I guess if I'm going to do this thing, I don't know. And I thought, okay, I'll go run. It'll be great. It'll be stupid probably. So I get there, and all of a sudden the town's packed with people, like packed. And I realized, dude, like this is serious. And there's like Olympic symbols all around, and they're coming through here. Like they went all across country to get to Atlanta where they're going to light the torch, right? And so I realized, like, the torch came from, Greece. And so this is like the flame they've kept alive. And wherever they stop at night, they put it in a hotel room, and there's state police that are just watch the light. Like, who would want that job, right? So anyway, they take me to my station. They put like 10 of us in this little, van, and they take us to where we're going to run. And I'm not kidding you. I mean, it's like 4 or 5 deep on this road, and I'm standing there, and I'm holding this torch. And so I see down the road, and this motorcycle zooming up the road, and I could see a runner behind the motorcycle. So this guy zooms up to me, and he goes, "Hey, dude." Yeah, and he goes like, "The runner down there is going to come. They're going to light your torch. And then what you got to do, you got to run and then go right, and you'll see the next person." I go like, he goes, "Are you ready?" And all of a sudden, I could just feel myself like, yeah! And I'm really getting jacked up, honestly, about this. So I see this person come, and all of a sudden, man, they give me that light, and it's like, lights up. And I just start flying down the road. Like, I run a lot. I started hyperventilating. I took off so fast. And it was only like a half a mile. And I go down the street, and then I go right, and there's some woman there waiting for me, and I light hers, and I'm like gassed from running so fast. But, in hindsight, I started thinking, what would have happened if I took that torch, and when they told me to go right, I went left? Or what if I took the torch, I went left, and I went into somebody's yard and had the grace, and I'm hiding behind a bush? And the Olympic guy comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, dude, like, we're waiting for you. Like, this needs to get there." Like, no, this is my torch. This is my flame. I don't want anybody. No. Or if I got mad and went, "No." Blow it out. But here's the point. There was a moment in time I was the only person. This is crazy. In the world with that flame. I had my 1 minute of glory. But I tell you, every day, I get to have the fire of God's Spirit in my life. And so do you. So do you. So here's the deal. We can live for a lot less. We can't ever live for anything more. Like every day, we get to be a branch. Isn't that awesome? I mean, we just get up in the morning and go, "Man, I'm a branch." That's awesome. Today, Lord, would you just live through me today? Display yourself. God, bring more of your kingdom. It's goodness. It's courage. It's wholeness. Give me a chance to see what you see in people and situations. To speak up when I need to speak up and keep quiet. Holy Spirit, I won't do it on my own. I need you. I know, Pat, I know. And God, would you give me eyes to just see who might be a person that I might invest myself in a little bit more. To give a little more of me away to, like somebody's done for me. Because my greatest privilege is to be a branch. Isn't that amazing? You're going to leave a mark, man. Me too. So next week, we're going to talk more about this. We're going to put a lot more meat on the bones, if you will. I'm going to tell you some other guys that are different things that are happening. This is very practical stuff. Like, this isn't like it's only for a few. Does this make sense? Are you encouraged? Well, let's do this. Let's stand, and we get to leave the room up tonight. You do not have to break it down. I don't know why that is, but the Lord has said a Hebrew prayer of amen. That's what we're going to say right now. Thank you, Lord. I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit. Every branch that does bear fruit, He prunes so that it will be even more fruitful. You are already clean because of the word. Remain in me as I also remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me, and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. Amen. So as we look towards next week, we're going to spend another week talking about influence and fruit. In preparation for that, maybe spend a little time looking at Matthew chapter 9, verse 35 through chapter 10, verse 10. Because it's a significant passage regarding this. Because one of the things is certain, Jesus never ever considered that his followers would just lead these private lives without any public influence. We want to look at some examples of how this took place and how we, in our day-to-day lives, in those places where we go, where we naturally bring influence, can have even a little bit more, how we can leverage it even more so. But spend some time in that passage this week and just think about what was going on and what the disciples came back and reported in to Jesus. And think about this. Why do you think the scriptures actually tell us the names of the disciples? Scratch your head over that one this week a little bit. Take care.